Hello everyone and welcome back to Painting with Martin. It's been a while since we actually painted Karak miniatures, so today is the time to rectify that. We're looking at Lady Lorraine from the Karak miniature set, first expansion set, which Albi Games, who actually publishes these things, this game, was kind enough to give me at Essen Spiel in 2024, I believe. And today we're going to look at this one, this character here. I'm going to use this one as a reference model. And she also has a bear here as well. It's hard to see which one is which here, but this one actually has a bear. So so we're going to paint her basic purple on for her hair, skin color, a white cloak, white fur cloak, some green for her long cloth and some tunics, some boots, as well as for the brown bear as well. So it's a fairly basic model to paint. I'm going to leave this one aside here. I have a completely messy table here, so hopefully you can bear with me on this one, so to say. We're going to start by painting the bear, and for this one I've chosen a rhinox hide from Citadel. It's a quite dark color, I have to admit that, but I actually or you could possibly use Cygor brown for this one if you want to use Citadel's color contrast coverage, which was actually the one I was looking for. So we're going to use this one, the Cygor brown, give it a good shake here, and we're going to apply it with a fairly large brush because it's a fairly large model, and we're going to apply it liberally over the entire miniature. So as such, we're applying it as such, like this. And don't worry if it gets and spills on the base, we can clean that up later as well. But you do actually want to take great care here not to touch the Lady Lorraine's fur coat, because it's going to be fairly white. There's going to be a little bit of a hazard to actually fix that, but you can fix it as well if it spills over, and I might actually do that as well. You know, I'm fairly messy sometimes. So here I'm taking great care not to touch it if I can. And the bear is a fairly large piece of this model. That's why we start with him, or her, or it, whatever you want to call it. And by doing so, you can actually allow this bear to dry and then apply layers on it afterwards. Applying a little bit more colors on it, more contrast paint. Making sure that it soaks in the recesses as such. Turn it around. The paint handle I'm using is from Redgrass Games, not sponsoring this video in any way, but I did back them on Kickstarter. There's actually a review of it on my channel as well, so if you want to take a look at this one, feel free to do so as well. And there's plenty of other Karak videos on the channel as well. This is just one of them that I just haven't gotten to yet, and I just wanted to do that. Underneath, angling the miniature as you see fit is a great way of actually getting to all the nooks and crannies that you're actually missing otherwise. Making sure here that you don't touch her skin color here, her thighs, if you can. If you can avoid it, that would be great. Putting it in between her hands here. Oh, I see I already nicked a little bit of the supposed to be skin color here. And you can fix that later on as well. It's just most important that you get all the white parts here. I've primed these in Vallejo's white, just to give it a nice good primer. I've used a brush-on primer for this one, but you can of course use a spray can primer if you prefer that one as well. There are plenty available in either in your local hardware store or of course in your friendly local game shop as well. Make sure that you check them out. And here it's hard to get reach, so I'm using the brush here to push it inside as such. Making sure it's really soaked in this wonderful contrast paint. And here it can be a little bit tricky to get in between her thighs here. Using the brush here to push it upwards. It's a nice technique that I like. using the brush to push, therefore it's good not to use, and also spilled here on her thighs. We're going to have to fix that later as well. That's why starting with the bear can be a great idea to get it done. Now, as you can see here, I made several mistakes, and I might as well just fix it later on as well when it's dried. Bear is looking fairly complete, and it's already looking much better. As you can see here, I made plenty of mistakes. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to try and correct them before it spills over too much. Oh, there's a little bit of a mistake here. A little bit more paint here needed on the bear here, as I saw. There you go. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to take a piece of kitchen towel, and we are going to try to soak up the excess paint. Make sure we speed up those drying times because of this one. This is just only going to be fixed. This is what happens. And then we are going to apply a layer of white on this one immediately, while the rest of the time has time to rest of the miniature has time to dry. Using a small brush for this one. Painting it over as such. That's why it's very important to leave this one to dry entirely, which is going to turn into a mess. As such. Alright, while this one has time to dry entirely, someone is using a chainsaw outside cutting down some trees, so I apologize for the noise. But we can actually put some paint on her hair, which is also one of the focal points in the miniature, using another contrast color called Contrast Magos Purple from Citadel, giving it a good shake, and of course applying it neat, using a fairly small brush for this one. First time I'm using this paint, never tried it before, so we'll see how it goes. It's a fairly light purple. If you want a darker purple, you can go for Leviathan purple or maybe Skyish purple if you're using contrast paints. But with this contrast paint, you can actually see all the beautiful locks of her hair, as I primed it in white. And therefore you can actually see how it folds out really nicely. Take a nice extra care not to touch her face. And leaving it soaking in the recesses as such. Moving it along as you see fit. Alright, looking quite okay. We're leaving this one to dry in the meantime. And then we're moving on to, while this one's still drying, we're going to move on to her cape, as well as her, we'll do the cape. And the cape is going to be another very kind of like greyish colour, also a Citadel contrast range, called Apothecary White. Give it a really good shake and make sure all those pigments are mixing as such, like this. Doing it off camera, so not shaking too much. And it is actually not a white colour, it is a grey colour. And I'm starting off with a small brush on this one, make sure I have more brush control, and then applying it in a couple of stages over the miniature as such. It will give a white greyish tint on the cloak, or the fur cloak actually, giving it not too much white because otherwise it's going to dominate the entire figure. And of course you can see that it soaks into the recesses as such, giving it a nice extra look. And that is of course not just pure white. You can also use this one underneath here as well. As well as the back of the cloak, on the side, as well as inside here as well. You can use this one too. Don't forget the top part. And angle the miniature as you see fit, so you make sure you can actually spot everything out. Some of the hair actually went away here. It's not entirely dry, so I'll try to soak it up using a damp brush. It's an excellent way of actually teaching mistakes here and what not to do. But soaking it up like this means you can actually get most of the paint up, and then you can fix the mistakes when it's completely dried. Yeah, like this. Maybe her hair was just dyed. Who knows? Who knows? When it comes to the her feet, they're also going to be in this kind of like a greyish manner, but I'm going to opt for actually painting a slightly bluish grey to this one to give it a little bit more of a variation. I'm going to opt for Fenrisian grey from Citadel, closing the paint pot of course here as necessary, giving it a good shake and apply it over the her boots. Also applying it neat, as like this. It gives it a nice variation of colour, and there's a little bit of brown mixed in from the other ones now, and I'm using this one intentionally to actually give it a little bit of a dirtier look. As per the card art. Keeping this on the miniature, keeping this on the brush I mean, as such. And you can also see here that I missed a spot of the great paw on the bear, and I'm going to use this one with a smaller brush now, try to correct the mistake, using some Cygor brown again and going back to the bear as such. It's not the end of the world if you don't want to do this. If you see any white bleeding through, it's a nice time to fix this right now as such here. All right, thank you very much for being patient with me. We're now going to go over her skin details, I think. Let's see here if this one is dried. It is mostly dried. So we're going to go over, normally I thought about using a new contrast paint, but I think it's going to be quite nice to actually use a base paint for this one. And we are going to go for a kind of base color called Waagh Flesh from Citadel for all her tunics, so to say. We'll see how this turns out. I have no idea. I've never painted her before. Waagh Flesh tends to be quite liquid, this particular kind. And of course the paint is not entirely dry, which is probably why but almost like a glaze. I don't know why the paint is behaving like this. As well as a tunic up here. As such. Mixing it with a little bit of white, actually, it turned out here to be quite nice, according to more to the card art that I actually anticipated. When we've done this one, you can actually go over to start painting the skin. And for the skin, I'm going to opt for a traditional approach of then using a Cadian Fleshtone from Citadel of painting the skin details. Using it neat, I'm now starting with the legs. Or actually thighs, actually. This one won't win you any competitions, but it will look a lot better on the table once you've done this one. Don't forget the inner thigh here, if you can get the hang of it. And then, of course, we've got the stomach showing here. Torso is probably a better medical term. Her hands and her arm in here. Don't forget the other side of the hand. Her other arm and hand here. Taking more care than before of not touching the bear. And of course, now time for the face. Which is a focal point of the miniature. Angling the paintbrush holder or the holder of course where you're holding in as you see fit. And there you have some of it quite nicely. You can see the great results of the Apothecary white on this one. And we've got, looking quite okay with this one. A little bit of the details here in the skin details we missed. Here we're looking at now the last stage of the base paints, and that's going to be the sword and the scabbard of the sword. For the scabbard of the sword, we are going to opt for some XP88 from Citadel. And don't worry, there will be a full list of descriptions for the paints that I've used in this video in the description box of the video. So don't worry if you miss out something like that. Doing my best to actually make sure only the scabbard here is painted and nothing else. And of course the other side as well. The sword handle is also in this color. If you can get round to it. And now of course we need the sword guard, which is going to be some gunmetal from Vallejo, which I have already put out here on my palette. On the other side as well. And we can also paint this one a little bit of a detail up here with this one, her attachment for the buttons up here, which is nice. And then turning around, we now can also start painting a tiny detail here, which I really like. I love details when it comes to the blue stone attached to her sword pommel. And for the blue stone, it's nice to have a really vibrant blue color for this one. So I'm going to use a metallic color called Elven Armor from Army War Paints. Also, I've never used this before, and I want it to really shine with the metallic finish. You can see it here. These kind of like small details that I really like to put on. Now we're going over to some finishing touches and of course some highlights. We're going over with a Fenrisian grey, again for the boots. Give it a nice touch. Unfortunately it's not entirely dry yet here, so we'll see if we can soak the paint up. But I think it turned out quite nicely anyways. And what we can do is that we can start with the bear, giving it a little bit more of a warmer look. So let's see here if we have a warm look. Yes, we do. So we're going to use some Mournfang brown from Citadel, and we're going to use that to dry brush the miniature. And dry brushing is a great technique if you've never used it before. You take a large or small, old or worn or specialized dry brush, soak it with paint, and then you wipe most of the paint off as such, leaving it with very little color. And then you start brushing it in circles over the bear where the focal point is going to be. You can still see the wash here is still showing, and you can use that for the face as well. As well as the underneath, and you can do it as much as you want. You blend, it's kind of like blends in the colors really nicely, and it doesn't make the bear that dark. You can use this after a wash, or you can use this before a wash and then apply the wash afterwards to get more of a lighter effect through the wash. As such, and I'm using it a little bit unevenly here to make sure that a bear is not entirely evenly colored all over the face, all over the place, that is. You can use this one to get in between here if you want, to touch up mistakes that you made as well. Now I'm also a big fan of details, so I'm going to use some white, and let's see if I get this right. White and right, and I'm going to use this one for the eyes of the bear. As such here. You can dull them if they became too large with some Nuln Oil. Right now I think this bear is looking fairly scary, if I'm not mistaken. Fairly not too happy about it, at least. If you want to do some highlights for the hair and make it a little bit not that light, you can definitely go over it, and you can paint it with a color which I'm going to show you now, which is some cacophony purple. If you don't have that one, I would also recommend that you can go for Genestealer purple. This one is lighter, this one is darker. So let's go for the darker one. she has a little bit of a darker tint. So we'll do this one. I'm painting straight over it, leaving some of the recesses showing. As such. The coat I'm leaving exactly as it is. If you want to, you can also put some Reikland Flesh Shade on the face, give some more details. Otherwise, we are looking at a fairly done miniature. This is Lady Lorraine from Karak, the board game miniature set. It doesn't come. The board game does not come with this one. You have to purchase it separately. But if you like Karak and you want some added figures, and you also want some actually some plastic figures, not the standees, this is a perfect opportunity to actually go onto Albi site and get them for your board game collection. Otherwise, I want to say thank you very much for all you who watched. Thank you to all of you who have subscribed to the channel or following me on social media. And I will see you next time in the next video. Please like, share and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me grow and it makes me really happy as well. So thank you very much for watching.